Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Good Girls. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I thought that was kind of a great opening to this. It's like, you know, the back and forth between Annie and Beth about like that little blender and everything. And it's like, wait, is it red, white cable, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah. I'll keep looking for it, even though she found it and everything. Just like the back and forth between them and stuff like that. And I forgot what she was saying, that she's basically like, Annie makes some remark and Beth's like, I thought you said you didn't have it. And Annie's just like, I'll get back to you if I find it. But the real surprise of like Rio rolling up on her place, I was like, yo! He's never made a house visit to Ruby and Annie. It's always Beth. Beth's like the go-between. So like, it's so crazy. I was like, whoa. I was like, this is a first. And it didn't even cross my mind. I was like, right, he's pissed about that money from last episode. They lost in Canada at that casino. I was like, oh, it didn't even cross my mind. But like, he's like, yo, get your jacket. It'll be cold. She's like, and she's looking at her phone and he's like, don't do that. She's like, you know, my son's going to be back anytime and he'll be wondering where I am. He's like, that's the point. It's like, get your shoes too. And I'm like, oh boy. I was like, that was tense, dude. And then, obviously Beth is trying to balance everything where it's like, okay, she's spoiling her son who has a broken arm. And then like, obviously the others are like, oh, we want to. I was like, all right, fine, you know. And then you have Dean be like, oh, so what are you up to? What are you up to? And the moment he's asking those questions, like, right, he's trying to get dirt so he can give it to his lawyer so he can basically bury you with all the stuff that Dean's taking the fall for. But the fact is, he's bringing it up in front of the kids and everything. And Beth's almost like, what are you doing? And then the kids are looking like, what the hell? They could tell, like, they might not know what's going on, but they think there's something up. Like, right. It's super effed up to have those conversations in front of the kids and stuff like that. But for him, it's like, he's like, I'm just playing. Daddy's just messing around. And then Beth's like, you know, there's nothing going on today. It's like, yeah, but you weren't there when our son was in the hospital. It's like, once again, I get where Dean and Stan are coming from, but it's still the thing of, because I have bias in this, like, you know, Annie, Beth, and, you know, Ruby, like, we follow them through all this. Yes, Stan and Dean have had their parts to play and everything, but this has been their ride, so I brought it up before, like, it's like Walter White. Despite everything Walter did, I was still ride or die with him by the end of the series. I'm like, I kind of want to see you get away with it. It's that same mentality. Once again, Beth has done some stuff that's, like, super questionable, very morally, ambiguous and not so morally ambiguous in some cases, but the fact is she hasn't crossed those lines. But I'm still kind of like, nah, despite everything, I want Beth to win. Like, the fact is, I want her to have it all, and sadly with this line of work, it seems like, and as we're seeing this season, you don't get to have it all, you know. So that's where things just currently are. But it's just I understand why Dean's so pissed, but I also just wish he'd cut her some damn slack. But I mean, because that's the whole point of, like, right, he feels like he deserves it because it's like, right, I did all that shady stuff, but it's like, no, like, should you basically have them pay the rest of your life for those mistakes type of thing? I feel like you should cut her some of that leeway, but it's different circumstances. I get it, but it's just like, I understand my bias. I'm always going to side with Beth on those situations because I'm kind of, like I said, I'm just kind of ride or die with her with her, Ruby, and Annie with the whole thing. But regardless, Ben showing up like that was like, wait, he's like, have you seen my mom? She's like, wait, what? And it's like, oh, well, let me just call her phone. And it's like, wait, she left her phone? It's like, I have an idea who she's with. Made sure to get some money from Ruby. It's like, all right, we're paying in installments. And he's like, okay, so you want your sister back in installments. It's like, she's like, and you see Beth flustered and pissed, but like, just to see her slamming the table, be like, give me back my sister, you know? And it's kind of like, all that money you lost me in the casino, I want it back. You can have your sister back. So his right-hand dude's the one that's with Annie. And I love they left her in the freezer, and then he pulls her out and it's like, okay, you want regular or double stuff? She's like, I don't want, he's like, you know, double. She's like, double stuff. And just like, oh, get some Skittles. I don't like Skittles. They're not for you. And then she's trying to talk to the guy's like, that guy's trying to kidnap you. You see that guy back there? Don't look at him. He's trying to kidnap you. Call the cops or something. And it's like, yo, bro. And it's like, oh, they're tight. So I was like, talking to the wrong person or trying to escape. But honestly, let's focus on Annie's side of things, which I think it is interesting that Rio and Beth have their dynamic, but like Home Dude, and I don't even know Home Dude's name. I'm sure maybe it's been said. It's kind of like Phoebe's name. Her name was never actually said. I only know like her name because I actually like found it on IMDb. I'm sure that dude's character has a name. I just feel like I've never heard it mentioned. Rio's name gets brought up all the time. I don't know if his name. I mean, hell, because even to this point, like Beth and Ruby still refer to Rio as gang friends. So like, it's not like they even call him by his actual name, but. Rio's right-hand dude, like, him and Annie spending that time together, it's like, even getting, like, a bit cup, you know, it's like, oh, it's not like she's like, I don't want a Slurpee or Slushie or whatever. He's like, yeah, it's not for you. It's because it's going to be a long road drive, so, it's like, okay. I love the whole thing of, like, he's like, hit me, and she's like, no, I don't want to. She's like, why don't you do it yourself? He's like, no, it could be dangerous while I'm driving. And so she's on Oreo duty, opening him up, giving it to him. He scrapes out the cream and throws the cookie out the window. She's just like, ugh. And obviously the entire time she's trying to stress her importance, like, I am important. He's like, really? I don't think so. She's like, I do this, I do that. And he's like, it doesn't sound that hard. She's like, yes, it is hard. And she's like panicking because she's like, I don't want you to kill me. I don't want you to kill me. And then all of a sudden he rolls up on the dude, pistol whips him multiple times in the face, and then like starts beating on him. And the moment he looks and locks eyes with Annie, I'm like, oh, that's going to be an issue. That guy's seen Annie's face. So, and then he kind of as they're leaving, he's like, see, that's the thing about people with important jobs. If the people with really important jobs, they don't have to, like, say how important they are. So, it turns out he beat the crap out of that dude because it's like, right, you know, because he won't scam people out of money anymore. It's kind of what he was saying. It's like, oh, and the guy he's willing out, you're like, oh, that must be, like, family to you. And it's like, right, that's why you, this wasn't, like, part of work. This was personal. And in that time, Annie's trying to squeeze out the window like he left cracked. But then the cops roll up because the guy had reported it. But Annie walks over, and rather than turning on him, dude, she decides to help him out. Because for her, it's like, right, you have connections, you'll get out of jail anyway. And it's like, also, I don't need you pissed at me as well. I'm trying to keep this situation as calm as possible. Like, I think she's like, she knows like running would cause more issues than anything. But I love that she's like, yeah, there was a murder last night. And they were like, what? She's like, basically, yeah, we pounded it out. And it's like, yeah, it was like Lizzie bored him, but the axe was his. It's like, no, she's lying. And it's just like, you know, it's like, oh, we never left the motel at all. Let's get some electrolyte, babe, or something like that. And just like, I was like, oh, they, like I said, it's just, regardless of, because we actually learned a lot more about him this season. We learned, like, obviously he's good with babies because he has a kid of his own. So there's actually some commonality between, like, him, like, the parallels between Rio and Beth can be reflected upon them kind of being, like, those right-hand people to a certain extent. So we find out more about that guy not being, like, the old guy not being his grandfather. He's like a grandfather. He's the janitor. He's the one that cleaned up any messes, dissolved stuff, flushed it down the toilet. But that guy is like, yeah, he's the type of guy that will make you want to do anything for, kind of like you and Beth. And it's like, tried to defend being like, Beth's not like that. Oh, yeah? If that, you know, how so many people are willing to do so much for her. It's like, if that was the case, like, why are we both here where we are right now? So I think that in itself probably got Annie kind of questioning certain things, because, you know, because I think a lot of the Beth stuff kind of like, that's her sister, so she's always going to side with her, and like, yeah, she probably has her issues in certain regards, but she's always kind of ride or die for Beth, you know? Because Beth even talks about it, like, she even says, like, oh, I wish I was more like Annie, because Annie, like, has always, like, because their life upbringing wasn't all copacetic, because let's not forget, their mom died from, like, she got sick and died, so Annie, like, kind of took it upon herself to kind of be the life of the party, like, you know, to kind of make life more fun. Talked about that time they were, like, stuck inside of camping inside of a Target or whatever, and convinced the guy to let them watch Green Fried Tomatoes, and it's like, that's become, like, a thing between her and Ben. She's like, yeah, like, she makes me watch that movie, like, all the time, and it's like, yeah. So I think just Annie's thing is, like, she's always the life of the party. She just has a hard time leaving the party. But, like, I think her whole demeanor is, like, a defense mechanism. And it's like, she developed it at a young age. So, like, right. So you wouldn't have to deal. It was her way of dealing with, like, the cruel realities of things. I think that's also, like, why she is the way she is. Like, she has to be, like, the sense of humor in the group to a certain extent, because that's her way of dealing with like literally all this scary, crappy stuff that they deal with on a regular basis. I think it's her way to kind of make herself feel better while also trying to make everyone else feel better. It's like, it shows you like how important she is to this whole like trifecta, because even at one point in time, like Beth and Ruby are in the car and you're like, yeah, like, you know, Annie would probably be making a whole point right now, you know, like, you know, because Beth's like, you hear that? It's like, what? It's like, no, I don't hear anything. It's like, yeah, because Annie's not here, you know, asking us some question like, would we rather be stung by like a whole bunch of bees or like, you know, mauled by a bear? And Ruby's like, yeah, you know, I'd go with the bees. And then Beth looks at her. No, the bear. Why? The bees, they'll eventually, you know, you'll get numb and you'll no longer feel anything. And Beth's like, yeah, but the bear is fast. It's like, yeah, but what if the bear starts at your feet? Well, what if the bees sting you one at a time? And she's like what are they in the line to DMV? And it's like, and then yeah, Annie would probably say they're actually, we'd say all that, but then she'd probably say we're wrong. But then like Ruby later on throws it out there like, but what if you're allergic to bees? And then like Beth's like, all right, okay, bees it is, you know. And I like that, you know. Because at the same time, like, Ruby and Beth did have the conversation about, right, it's like, right, so you didn't have to make that deal with Stan. She's like, basically saying you didn't have to, but also you shouldn't have to have made that deal. But she's like, no man's going to come between you and me. Like, I made that deal with Stan, but I guess it's going to be like, we're going to be having a bestie affair in the sense that, like, behind his back, we're going to still be hanging out like we're good. I don't know. Because Beth is doing, because she told Stan what he needed here, but also it's like she's trying to do right by her family. Like, she's just trying to do right by a lot of people because of the situation she's kind of brought them all in on. And it's just like, just digging that grave a little deeper every time, you know? Because we're, at this point, I feel like we're way past 6 feet under, you know? Because Beth did go to Rio's brother / cousin for help, but for him it's like, I can't get involved. And he goes to he calls up the police, and she's like, you know, I can't do that. He's like, it's not, it's a lot more complicated, huh? And she's like, because it's frustrating for her, because it's like, so you're just going to sit on the sidelines the entire time this happened. He does eventually go visit Rio, because he's like, yeah, like, his approach to Beth is for some, I don't know what his end result is to that. I guess it's like, you get more flies with honey than vinegar. Type of situation. So by being sweet to her, nice to her, she lets down her guard and thinks she has an ally, so it makes her feel like she can keep working with you. It keeps her, in his mind, I think it makes her a little, she'll be more complacent, because she'll think she'll have me as an ally, but you doing what you're doing is putting me in a position, because now she's not trusting me as much, because I can't do as much, because I can't necessarily screw you over, because obviously we're in this together, but she doesn't know that. She thinks we're just family and I have nothing to do with you, when in actuality I have everything to do with you. And so for Rio, it's kind of like, yeah, I need my money, like, she's messing up my situation, so it's a difference of opinion about how, you know, approaching this whole thing, you know. So I don't know, it's gonna be interesting to see, kind of, because Beth left saying like, I'm not the issue, he is. And the look on Rio's cousin / brother's face made me go like, it definitely leans more towards the thought that maybe by the end of this season he might kill Rio, just because it's like, honestly, like, just to prove a point, like, yeah, it's like he might be in a position where like he might think like Rio's redundant, because it's like, right, I'll just fill that role myself. That or Rio's right hand dude gets the promotion. It's like, you're going to be running things from now on. Rio, you're causing too much problems, like, to keep Beth and them happy. It's like, right, she's going to pop Rio. I don't know. This is family we're talking about, but when family becomes a hindrance, sometimes that it's in that world, it seems like you have to take them out. Whether it'll come to that, I don't know, but that's my current thought. Like, I've been feeling that for the past couple episodes, that he might decide to take Rio out, just because Rio might be more of an issue, at least screwing up what he's trying to do. But like, the dichotomy and the ecosystem that they've created for themselves, with him kind of being on the right side of things, Rio being on the wrong side of things, that works the way it is. So I don't see him necessarily busting that up unless he really, really needs to. We'll see. Because, I mean, it could easily be a thing of him being like, actually, Rio, you're out. Beth, you're going to get you're already neck deep. You're going to get even super deeper into this situation. Like I said, we're not even just 6 feet. We're going deeper and deeper in this. I think he might actually not even be Rio's right-hand dude that takes over. He might leave Rio's operations entirely to Beth. That might be what we're kind of setting up in that. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious where Ruby and where Ruby and Ruby and Annie would feel about that. Because it definitely feels like, if you caught up with Ozark, where Wendy and Marty are currently, it feels like that might be where we might be heading for Beth's character. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously, like, they're trying to, like, print the money, but Gene owes, like, $9,000 in back taxes on the place, so they have to pay for it, but they don't have the money for it. But Stan has them covered, so they take that money and they go to the auction, and they run into one of the ladies from Harry's school. It's like, oh yeah, like she's one of the people that bought the bags and stuff like that. It's like, cool, they're about to buy the strip club and everything, and then all of a sudden she starts, I was like, is someone going to bid on this? I just get the feeling, and she does too, and they're like, what? I love Beth being like, you already have one. She's like, but this was a steal. Yeah, Ruby's like, it's a steal from us, and as she's walking away, she's like, well, you know, to win, you have to learn how you have to lose first to learn how to win, or something like that, because what Ruby had said to her before. And then she was like, the bag's fake, you know. I was like, dude, like, little Ruby was just like, you want to walk away with what we got? I'm gonna give you the middle finger. So I love that it's like they're there for the place, and they give her like even less. She's like, this is even less money than I paid for. It's like, oh no, but we came here because it's a steal. And lo and behold, it's the inspector lady from earlier in this season, and it's like Ruby be like, oh look, you dropped it. She's like, oh thank you ma'am, and just walks away. I'm like, yeah. Sours any relationship with that lady, but to be fair, this is all about saving Annie. That comes first and foremost. So they get the money, and Annie ends up getting dropped back off. Obviously she finds Ben sleeping on the couch, and is that the first scene Ben and Beth has been in, like, for a long ass time? I don't know if they've ever really had any scenes together. I mean, there's not much interactions between each other's kids. Like, I don't think Annie's had too many interactions with Beth's kid. Same thing. I don't think Beth's had too many interactions with Ruby's kid. And Ruby, like, no one's had a lot of interaction with each other's kids. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Regardless. But, you know, Beth being like, telling Annie, holding her tight, you know, being like, it should have been me he took. And he's like, it'll never be you, because to him, you are the most important one. Ruby and me are the expendable ones. Like, you know, we will always be pawns in this game, because you are always, because he likes you too much, because you're too valuable. Whereas the rest of us, we're dispensable. And that's kind of a hard reality to kind of realize, because like Annie's like, no, I am important. I mean, you know, because usually they're a package deal. You know, when it came to the whole, Charlene Yee's character, they had to prove their worth together. And obviously it's like, she ended up getting popped just to prove a point. So, you know, it's the thing of like, when we're individually put up against Beth's individual worth, Annie and Ruby don't compare. It's only as a trio that they matter, but that's because sadly Beth makes up the bulk of like their worth. So I think even Ruby and Annie together isn't enough to equal up Beth's worth, at least in Rio's eyes, you know. So once again, he has a soft spot for her, despite everything, but also it's just like because she's really good at what she does, you know, because she is, as Annie tried to be like, I'm the brains behind the operation. We all know it's really Beth, but still, it is a collaborative effort. But sadly, like Beth is kind of like, it's probably like, once again, 50 to their 25 each. And it's probably more like 75, and you know, you kind of divide that 25% between Annie and Ruby. But regardless, another angle to this is obviously finding out, Dean is trying to dig up dirt on his wife, but obviously she deletes her messages. She doesn't keep anything in the diary or anything like that. So, because basically once the ankle monitor is taken off, it's like, she's going to have gotten away with everything, and you have taken the fall for it. And you might get the ankle monitor off when we do our thing, but she's still going to get away with it. And are you okay with that? It's time to basically get your nuts back or something like that. So find something that we can use against her. And so he's bringing Stan over. And so even Stan's like, whoa, turning on your wife? He's like, yeah, but kind of basically being like, because Stan was like, yeah, that's yikes. I don't envy you that. Yes, he doesn't like Beth a lot, but that is a situation where it's still a thing of, that's hard for anyone to be like, because I'm sure for him it's like, I can never imagine turning on Ruby no matter what. So for you to be at the point that you're willing to turn on your wife like that, that's yikes. But then, Dean's asking for his help because, for Stan's concern, it's like, right, you doing what you're doing is going to take Ruby down. He's like, I'm going to make sure that everything has to fall on Beth. Ruby won't even take any of the fallout. He's like, I need your help. And Stan doesn't really say anything, but you can tell he's working it in his mind. But obviously he's like, gives the money and everything and helping them. And he's like, it's family first and all that, right? And Ruby's like, finally, you're getting it. And it's like, everything's in her name, isn't it? So it's like, yeah, getting her out of our life isn't going to be that easy. But now he's sitting with Dean and the other two. And it's like, right, I have something that could potentially take her down. Now, it's a situation because he knows that once he crosses his line, Ruby will never forgive him for this. Like, once again, Beth isn't just like a best friend. That is family to her. That's her sister and everything. So it's like, you doing this, because also, like, you're worried about Ruby. What about Annie? Annie would be, like, being a sister and everything. She'd probably get caught up in the crossfire as well. So it's going to probably turn into that situation of, like, Annie and Ruby have to, like, basically choose a side. And I'm sure they choose Beth's side, but they also have to think about their kids as well. Just like Beth has to try and think about her kids and her husband and everything, even though he's secretly trying to screw you over. Now, it's a whole thing that I'm like, once again, I understand where they're coming from, but I'm still going to side with Beth. That's just, like I said, that's where I am with it. Not taking away from them not having rightful reason to be pissed at Beth, but I'm just like, I just wish they'd be a little more understanding, but at the same time, it is a thing of, well, Beth's not understanding of our circumstances. But yeah, like I said, Ruby's never going to forgive him for doing this because it's like, if Beth goes down, it's going to be because Stan helped. It's also gonna, he's a little too gung-ho. I get he's pissed at, I get that Dean's pissed at Beth, and I'm like, you're a little too gung-ho about it, because it's like, right, like, you're going to be responsible for sending your kid's mom to jail. Like, yeah, you might feel like your friends might have sparked in your head, like, yeah, my kids care about me the most, I'm the one that do stuff. It's like, yes, Beth's, been balancing a lot, but she's still their mom. You want your kids to grow up the rest of their lives without their moms in their life either. Like, that's the thing of, like, I mean, I'm sure Rio's brother/cousin is going to play an important role in this. He might be what's necessary to end up getting Dean off of his circumstances, and that in itself might make Dean kind of regret, like, the path he's going. It's like, oh, she actually was able to kind of, I don't know. We'll see. There's only a couple episodes left this season. This was episode 12, so we got, 4 left? So, at least should be, because every season, typically, with the exception of last season, every season's mainly been 16, right? I believe so. I have to look into that. But I'm so curious to ultimately see how this plays out, where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.